welcome to worship with the First Parish in Lincoln. We're so glad you're here. We know you have many options on a Sunday morning, and you've chosen to spend this time with one another and with us, and we're grateful. We have a lot of announcements this morning and a wonderful full service and a great conversation to follow. So let's get started with Doug Crosby.
Good morning. I have very good news this morning in announcing first off the results of our Thanksgiving collection, and for the rental housing assistance program, that offering has collected through our church over $7,800. So I have to say thank you to everybody who's been involved and everybody who's given. The group is thrilled. It's particularly timely because even the need has grown since we started the program. So the fact that we exceeded our expectations is absolutely wonderful. So a heartfelt thank you from that group to First Parish. Secondly, I wanted to take a second to mention our new offering for Christmas. And this year for Christmas, we're teaming up with Watch, the Community Development Corporation, which is a Waltham-based organization. And as many of you know, Waltham's been particularly hard hit as it's a red zone for COVID. So they do many programs, they have great outreach, but we're in particular focused on the hungry. And there's a group of people that can no longer access food, they can't leave their homes, they're shut-ins, people who just can't put it together to make it happen. So that hardscrabble group, the people that might otherwise fall between the cracks, our special program this Christmas is for food for those people working with Watch. So if you can, please think of this group. And if you're inclined, make a check out to the First Parish to the attention of Watch or the Christmas offering. And thank you again for the wonderful outpouring and Thanksgiving, and Merry Christmas to all of us in our community. Thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Ken Hurt.
Good morning, everyone. Ken Hurd for the transition team. You may recall that we gathered after church in October to reflect on a set of proposed value statements for First Parish. And we were delighted that so many of you stayed to provide excellent feedback that has helped us fine-tune those statements. However, before we settle on a final version of our values, we want to consider our church's mission and vision for the future, particularly as they relate to those values. We ask that you join us again today after the service as we discuss what our vision might be for First Parish in the next 5 to 10 years. For those of you thinking we did this already, the answer is yes, we did, back in 2017 as part of the Vision 2020 work. But because of all that's happened over the last 3 years, we think it wise to revisit those statements, to affirm and or update them if needed or appropriate. So we hope you can stay and join us after the service. But of course, if not, we are happy to receive your feedback via email. Remember, our vision for our future will be the foundation for developing a strategic plan, the work for which will begin in January. So we hope to see you after the service. Thanks. And now I'm going to pass it off to Mary Gaylord.
Good morning. First Parish, you've done it again, even with the snow and rain and snow pelting down yesterday. Quite a number of people appeared with donations of winter clothing for Solutions at Work in Cambridge. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We will be there again today toward the end of the postponed Touch of Christmas fair, starting at 3:30 in the parking lot. We'll try and find ourselves a perch, look for SUVs with open tailgates to receive your bundles. We are so grateful. Solutions at Work is doing astonishing work with vulnerable communities and homeless people in Cambridge. So thank you. See you later. And now I hand off to Margaret.
morning, everyone. I'm Margaret Griffith, the Director of Religious Education. I'll see you again later. I'm here this morning to talk about next Sunday, which, usually in years past, the closest Sunday to Lucia Day, we would have our Lucia procession in the church. Lucia Day is December 13th. Wouldn't it figure that the year that December 13th is a Sunday, we're not in the sanctuary? But never fear, we have a plan. During the worship service, we are going to be going to the source and sharing a Lucia procession from Sweden. It won't be a live procession from Sweden, it'll be a recorded Lucia procession, which, we wouldn't have the opportunity to do if we were in the sanctuary. So a little silver lining, that we get to share that experience. Then later at 3 o'clock, we're going to gather in the parish house parking lot for a physical Lucia procession of cars. So decorate your cars. We're going to gather at 3 and we'll go to the Commons, to Concord Park and Newbury Court for our Lucia procession. They are very excited that we are going to be coming. So I hope you'll join us for both or either. And thank you. And I think I'm handing it off to Deanna.
Good morning. Thank you. I'm Deanna LaFerriere on behalf of the deacons. We'd like to invite you and your family 2 weeks from today on the 20th to have an opportunity to enter our beautiful sanctuary at 4 Bedford Road, decorated with greens. Many thanks to Nancy Henderson, and lit by candles. We'll walk down the aisle, linger for just a moment, and listen to Ian playing live, and then continue outside to the field at the back of the church, each carrying a lighted candle. So watch for more details towards the end of this week and a sign up as well. Thank you.
And now, Sarah Bishop, do you have an update for us on the fair?
I do. It's happening. Obviously, our fair was supposed to be yesterday, but given that it was pouring rain and snowing, we went with today. So today, from 1 to 4, we will be hosting our Touch of Christmas fair on the Parish House playground, as well as the lawn around the sanctuary. There will be wreaths and baked goods, sort of. There will be May Market treasures. There will be Jackie Fallender's beautiful mittens. There will be rolls of decorated toilet paper. It's 2020. Just let the good times roll. There will be pandemic survival kits. There will be jams and jellies. There will be Sam and Charlotte Perkins cordials, all decorated by Jackie. There will be surprises for the kids. So please come today from 1 to 4 on either piece of property, visit both, and bring a friend. We need a big crowd because the committee has been working tirelessly to pull off this fair, and it will only be a success if people show up. So bundle up and please come. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sarah. And I know all of this is going to happen in a safe, socially distanced way. You have a wonderful plan for that. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of you, many of you this afternoon at the church and parish house. So now, before we have our opening words, let us greet one another with a wave. Good morning, First Parish in Lincoln. So good to see you all. Okay. Let us now deepen into worship with our opening words.
In this uncertain season of Advent, we wait, hoping God is coming to us. In the vagueness of these days, we try to listen, hoping the word will be whispered to us. In the weariness of our times, we wait, we listen, we watch, hoping the Spirit will be found in our midst. And now would you join me in our opening hymn, Angels from the Realms of Glory. We invite all to submit your prayers in the chat box to be read later on in the service. And now, would you join me in a spirit of prayer for our invocation? Spirit of life, you who are with us in our wilderness times, in exile, may we know your comfort and your peace this morning. Let us prepare the way for glad tidings of great joy for all people, that a new world is on its way. Make this gathered community a foretaste of that world governed by hope, peace, joy, and love. May it be so. Amen.
Please join us now as we say our covenant.
In the love of truth and in the spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of all.
Good morning. Here I am again. If we were in the sanctuary, one of the deacons or perhaps the student ministers would be standing here saying a little something about the nativity figures that adorn the windowsills during Advent in the sanctuary. handing the figures from one pew to another is a really beloved tradition. And it's a small gesture, but one with deeper meaning. It represents the journey that Mary and Joseph took just before the birth of Jesus. Bethlehem is 65 miles from Nazareth, where Joseph and Mary were setting out from, on foot or walking beside a donkey. As Mary rode some of the way, it would have been taken between 4 and 5 days for them to make that journey. It was dusty, it was uncomfortable, and Mary was very, very pregnant. This feels like a foreshadowing of the lives that Mary and Joseph were about to lead at the birth of Jesus. It was not going to be easy. No part of that life was going to be easy. And here they are, just putting their feet on the road of that path. On the opposite side of the sanctuary, we move the Magi, the wise men, the kings. The text of Matthew was written in Greek and would use the word magos, which in Latin is magus. And if you go for the plural, magi, we don't know how many there were really. There were 3 gifts, so people assume 3 magi, so we have 3. They were priests in the Zoroastrian Persian religion. And as priests, they were astrologers. Astrology was a really respected science back then. People looked to the stars to help them determine what the future might hold. And that was very well respected. So these magi would have been looking at the sky, and at about the same time, they noticed something different enough to start their journey. And so we'll have Mary and Joseph start their journey this morning, and we'll have the Magi start their journey as well.
Our Advent reading this morning is from Isaiah chapter 40, verses 1 through 11. There we read,
"Comfort, O comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and cry to her that she has served her term and her penalty is paid, that she has received from the Lord's hand double for all her sins."
A voice cries out, "In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway from our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low. The uneven ground shall become level, and the rough places a plain.
Then the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all the people shall see it together. For the mouth of the Lord has spoken it.
A voice says, "Cry out." And I said, "What shall I cry?" All people are grass. Their constancy is like the flower of the field. The grass withers, the flower fades, when the breath of the Lord blows upon it. Surely the people are grass. The grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of our God will stand forever.
Get you up to a high mountain, O Zion, herald of good tidings. Lift up your voice with strength. Lift it up, do not fear. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God.
See, the Lord God comes with might, and his arm rules for him. His reward is with him, and his recompense before him. He will feed his flock like a shepherd. He will gather the lambs in his arms and carry them in his bosom, and gently lead the mother sheep.
We light these candles in the spirit of peace.
Thank you so much, Jasper, Quinn, Jen, and Andy. That was beautifully done. Thank you. So this Sunday, like every Sunday in Advent, there is a theme. The liturgical theme for this Sunday is peace. And again, I'm looking at my faithful families for Advent and Christmas, this time on page 62. So if you have one at home, you can follow along. Families, if you weren't with us last week, families in First Parish all received a copy of this book to help them with their Advent. And I love what Tracy Smith, the author, says. The second week of Advent is the week of peace. Peace is the absence of conflict and fighting, a sense of unity, calm, and togetherness. Peace can be felt within one person's heart, within a family, within a community, or even between communities in the world. Peace starts from within and then radiates outward. To be a peacemaker in the world, start with inner peace. Many people say that inner peace is as close as breathing. You can try finding inner peace, she continues, by closing your eyes. And she goes on, but I want to stop here and think about what happens when we close our eyes to find that inner peace. Like everybody to just take a moment and close your eyes. I see darkness. Darkness is just as close as the closing of our eyes. It is what we embrace when we sleep. It's what we embrace when we're looking for a moment of calm, looking for that inner peace, one of the promises of Advent. May we find it in this darkness.
We come now to the time in our service that we set aside for silent and spoken prayers. After our prayer hymn by Ian, we will have a moment of silence followed by the reading of the prayers you have sent in. There is still time now if you'd like to use the chat feature to send in any prayers that you have today.
Spirit of life and love, hear the prayers of this people. A prayer of thanks for those hard workers out in the cold, getting ready for this afternoon's touch of Christmas, starting at 1. We offer prayers of hope for dear friends, Jay and N, who are sitting with the deep unknown of illness and what the future holds for each of them. We remember Meredith Jeremiah, our student minister last year, who passed the Ministerial Fellowship Committee yesterday. We rejoice with her. We join in praying for those facing evictions as the eviction moratoriums end this month. Prayers of thanks to God for FaceTime and Zoom, the ways we're getting through this time of isolation without seeing the faces of our loved ones. A prayer of thanks for the amazing care committee. We are so appreciative for their love and support. Prayers for those receiving new diagnoses during this time. And a prayer for our cousins and family as they recover from COVID. For all those living with chronic illness. A prayer for Harry Hare, the father of Jen Halloran's childhood best friend, who is in his final days of struggle with illness. We are happy he has his family around him. We celebrate the arrival of Liddy O'Brien, daughter of Carrie O'Neill and Tim O'Brien, granddaughter of Barbara and David O'Neill, sister of Ruby. A prayer for Jen Halloran's 91-year-old aunt who is recovering from COVID. A prayer of thanks to workers restoring power after the storm. A prayer that these holidays would remind us that there is light in the darkness. And we join in prayer for Bill Bassett, Ken Bassett's brother, who passed away peacefully at home with family in Ohio at 95 years old on Tuesday. We lift up these prayers that have been spoken aloud and those that are held in the silence of our hearts. Amen.
Spirit of light, Spirit of life, be with me in this season of Advent, this time of short days and long nights and waiting. I get up before dawn and tiptoe to the window, the waning moon behind a thin cloud veil, a beacon for night travelers. I think of seekers, pilgrims, of Mary and Joseph and their donkey, walking in the dark, steadied by the light of the moon. Help me prepare for my journey into the dark that is Advent. Help me find peace in my heart. Unburden me, make me light. I need all my strength to hear and heed your call. Please kneel beside me as I take out my burdens one by one. Some are smooth like worry stones or sea-tossed glass. Others rough, craggy, bumpy, all cold to the touch. In Advent, I look inward, prepare my heart for your coming. Dear one, how is it that I expend so much effort and still my heart is unprepared? Help me let go of the suffering I have caused, the ways I have not done enough, the pain I cannot fix. My heart is fear-filled. This Advent season exceptionally dark. The virus surges and lurks. Barnacles of anxiety keep accumulating, even as I reach for a new mask, open a new bottle of hand sanitizer. Social distance is lonely. Division persists. I am exhausted and frustrated. I pray for courage, strength, resilience. My heart aches with longing for the seasonal celebrations that keep the darkness at bay. Christmas concerts, singing in the sanctuary, the sacred silence of our candlelight service, friends and family gathered around a table prepared with foods I love to share. 3 stockings hung by the fire. Holiday hugs, grandchildren in laps, listening to the Christmas story again and again. The story of Mary, Joseph, donkey, wise men, shepherds, travelers to Bethlehem. Yes, they all looked inward, faced their fear, quieted their longings for the familiar. They listened and heard. This Advent, the darkness feels deeper. The joyful noises are silent. Let it be so. My sphere becomes small. I deepen my connection to what is right here. There's so much I have forgotten. I move slowly and attend to subtle cues. I listen for your call. I hear the wind, or perhaps a wing. You take my hand and lead me out into the unlight before dawn. Our feet make no sound in the snow. We lie on the white ground and look deep into the dark face of the sky. We wave our arms and legs in rapture. When the light comes, the snow will be full of angels. Please bless our journey. Thank you for the darkness. May there be peace on earth. Amen.
At this time, when we know the needs are so great, we appreciate your generosity so much. You may donate online at fplincoln.org/donate or mail a check to the church at 14 Bedford Road in Lincoln. Thank you.
Our reading today is by the Buddhist teacher Stephanie Noble. Dark is the rich, fertile earth that cradles the seed, nourishing growth. Dark is the soft night that cradles us to rest. Only in darkness can stars shine across the vastness of space. There is mystery woven in the dark, quiet hours. There is magic in the darkness. We are born of this magic. We are now in the season of Advent, and the prophets tell us to prepare the way. For centuries, we know this as a time of spiritual preparation, a chance for us to try and get ready, as if we ever could, for the inbreaking of the holy into our oh so ordinary world at Christmas. In the natural world, it is a season of growing darkness, the light diminishing a bit more every day. And usually what we do in December is try to put on all the lights we can. We do what people have been doing for millennia. In the face of gathering cold and dark, we light candles, the Advent wreath, the menorah, and bonfires, the solstice. That ancient instinct lingers in me still. I love winter, or so I've always thought, but as the clock creeps towards 5 o'clock and the darkness comes down around my little house, I find myself lighting candles in the kitchen, on the counter, on the windowsill. There's something in my spirit that seems to brace, and I light candles to try and ward off the dark. Advent, Frederick Buechner writes, is all about waiting in the darkness. The light of the world is coming, but it hasn't come yet. We're not quite there yet. In the meantime, he writes, we are in the dark, and God knows the dark is in us. We watch and wait for a holiness to heal us and hallow us and liberate us from the dark. But this Sunday, I'm wondering, what if darkness were not something to be liberated from, but something for us to consider stepping into, or at least approaching? What if it weren't something to avoid at any cost, but a new landscape, a place we might learn things that are simply not available to us in the light? That's the question that Barbara Brown Taylor puts to me in a book I'm reading with some of you this month. It's called Learning to Walk in the Dark, and it seemed like a spiritual skill that I might try to work on that might come in handy right about now. She wrote the book because she wondered what was wrong with her. What was wrong with her faith, which seemed to come and go like a moon that waxes and wanes instead of staying the same all the time, like the sun? The essential equation that darkness is somehow bad and light is good is something she learned as a very young child. Come inside now, it's getting dark, her mother would call from the doorway as she and her sisters played outside and the shadows lengthened. It must have cost her a lot to say that, writes Taylor. It was a quiet house and about to be invaded by 3 small, noisy girls. But she writes, she loved us enough to let us play outside till the cicadas cranked up. And then she loved us enough to call us inside so that nothing bad would happen to us in the dark. The dangerousness of the dark was like the law of gravity, she says. When she went to seminary, she learned that there were 100 references to darkness in the Bible, and none of them were good. People were cast into outer darkness, locusts darkened the land, and so forth. From the earliest time, she writes, Christians have used darkness as a synonym for sin, ignorance, spiritual blindness, and death. Well, theologically, of course, this creates all sorts of problems, not the least of them that white skin is privileged over black or brown or any other color skin. But even in the Bible, Taylor shows us that isn't the whole story. There's an awful lot of important things, it turns out, that happen at night. It was nighttime when God led Abraham outside and told him to look at the night stars, and that he and Sarah would finally have a child in their old age, and his descendants would be as numerous as the stars that spangle the heavens. It was nighttime when Jacob lay down and put his head on a stone and dreamed of the ladder reaching up to heaven and touching the earth and the bright angels going up and down. Once you start noticing how many important things happen at night in the Bible, Taylor writes, the list grows fast. Jacob wrestled an angel in the night on the bank of a river and lived to survive with a limp, a blessing, a new name, and a whole second chance at life. Joseph had dreams that earned him a new job in the royal court. At night, the Israelites escaped from Egypt. God parted the Red Sea, manna fell from heavens, and so on and so forth. And when Moses gets right up close and personal with God on Mount Sinai, although it doesn't happen at night, it is in the, quote, thick darkness, close quote, that Moses encounters the Holy One. There's a whole special word in Hebrew for this thick darkness called Araphel, and it's reserved for a darkness that reveals God's presence. I said she wrote this book because she wondered what was wrong with her, and I want to say a little bit about that because sometimes I wonder the same things she did. She wondered why she didn't have the kind of sunny faith that other people seem to have, what she calls full solar spirituality, the kind of faith that encouraged, even demanded, that trusty, vigorous faith in God at all times and in all places. You can recognize a full solar church, she writes, by its emphasis on the benefits of faith, which include a sure sense of God's presence, certainty of belief, divine guidance in all things, and reliable answers to prayers. Of course, that's all well and good when life is going okay. But when darkness descends and things fall apart, as Pema Chodron says, when you lose your job, or your marriage disintegrates, or your child has troubles, when illness comes, if you speak of these things in a full solar church, at first you'll probably get a sympathetic hearing. But if you keep on talking, you might be told that God doesn't give you anything that you can't handle. And if you keep on going, sooner or later, you might be told that the darkness might be your fault because you just didn't have enough faith. Barbara Brown Taylor stuck it out in a full solar spirituality church for a while. But in the end, she said it made her feel inadequate, like something was just simply wrong with her and her faith. It was too relentlessly sunny. And over time, she decided that she had more of what she called a lunar spirituality. Divine light that was available to her at any one time. It wasn't a fixed thing. Instead, it waxed and waned like the moon, on some days round and full, on others just a sliver, and on some nights completely gone. But then she noticed, when there was no moon in the sky, the stars appeared brighter than ever. Once I started to think this way, she says, once I let go of my fear of those dark places, I developed a great curiosity. I want to read you what she said. After I stopped thinking that all these fluctuations meant something was wrong with me, a great curiosity opened up. What would my life with God look like if I trusted this rhythm instead of opposing it? What was I afraid of exactly, and how much was I missing by reaching reflectively for the lights? Did I have enough faith to explore the dark instead of using faith to bar all my doors? How much more was in store for me? Of course, it says my battery is running low, so we'll see how we do here. I found this comforting, what she wrote, because it echoes my own experience. Taylor's field research led her to science and cosmology. It led her deep into the woods and into a cave in the ground and had her turning off all her devices in her bedroom at night to see if it could get really dark there. And it wasn't just physical darkness she explored. It was darkness as a metaphor for the spiritual and emotional places in her life that she'd been afraid to touch with a 10-foot pole. Darkness became a kind of shorthand, she said, a shorthand for anything that scares me, that I want no part of, either because I'm sure I do not have the resources to survive it, or because I do not want to find out. The absence of God is there, along with my fear of dementia and the loss of those nearest and dearest to me. So is the melting of polar ice caps and the suffering of children and the nagging question of what it will feel like to die. If I had my way, I'd get rid of it all. At least, she said, I think I would. The problem is, when, despite all my best efforts, the lights have gone off in my life, plunging me into the kind of darkness that turns my knees to water. Nonetheless, I haven't died. The monsters haven't dragged me out of bed and taken me to their lair. Instead, I've learned things in the dark that I could never have learned in the light. Things that have saved my life over and over again, so that there really is only one logical conclusion. I need darkness as much as I need light. It was that one line that struck me. I've learned in the darkness things I could never have learned in the light. What if that were true, I wondered? Would it give me a little more courage to approach those dark places in my life I'd rather avoid? Could it make me a little more curious and a little less afraid? When I contemplate the lives of people I love, when I think of all that might happen in life. The only way to learn is by encounter, said the German Jewish philosopher Martin Buber. And so this week I did a little field work of my own. I walked later in the afternoon when it was getting dark, so that it was dark by the time I was done. I walked out into my yard at night. Okay, I took the dog with me. It really wasn't all that dark. And I noticed where my thoughts were going and what they did when they got there. I thought about all that can grow in the darkness, a seed, a bulb, a baby. And I remembered that Advent, after all, is the time of holy birthing. We wait alongside Mary for what might be born, but we also consider what could be coming to birth inside of us, inside of you, and inside of me, in this community and in the world. Advent is a season of holy birthing. And what role do we have to play, you and I?
And I think we'll pause for just a moment as Jenny goes into the darkness of computer glitch. And we'll hold that for just a moment, hoping that she can rejoin us.
As we wait for Jenny, let us enjoy our closing hymn, People Look East.
Please join me in our call to ministry. We go forth from the worship of God to be faithful to the vision of Jesus, to affirm each person's dignity, and to cherish the living earth.
Thank you for bearing with me with my technical problems. Advent is a season of holy birthing. And how can you and I be midwives to that birth? I'd like to end with these words from Dylan Thomas. Imagine a little boy on the Welsh coast lying down to sleep after a jam-packed, snowy Christmas day. Looking through my bedroom window out into the moonlight and the unending smoke-colored snow, I could see the lights in the window of all the other houses on our hill and hear the music rising from them up the long, steadily falling night. I turned the gas down. I got into bed. I said some words to the close and holy darkness, and I slept. May it be so.
God be